Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here, and welcome to Crime Zone.
Authorities in the city of Lockport, New York say that a simple retail theft case took a dangerous turn this week after a woman allegedly stole hundreds of dollars worth of toys from a local store and then led police on a high-speed chase. According to reports, the incident began on the afternoon of November 27th when police were called to the Walmart Supercenter on South Transit Road with reports of a large theft in progress. A woman, later identified as 26-year-old Emily J. Thompson, allegedly grabbed $800 worth of Barbie toys off of the store's shelves before brazenly walking out, loading them into her car, and driving off. Coincidentally, she was driving a Ford Escape. Police spotted Thompson's vehicle a short time later, at which point they attempted to conduct a traffic stop. However, she continued to flee, driving at speeds of over 100 miles an hour on local roads. Deciding that the situation was becoming too dangerous, authorities eventually called the pursuit off. However, it appears Thompson did not get the last laugh. She was arrested just one day later on charges of larceny, fleeing an officer, and multiple traffic offenses. At the time of this recording, it's unclear whether any of the Barbie merchandise has been recovered.
Representatives from the Chicago Police Department say that one of their own officers is facing charges and has been stripped of her police powers this week, a little over 2 months after she allegedly reported a fake story about being the victim of an armed robbery. The whole thing began sometime on September 23rd when authorities received a 911 call from 37-year-old Zandronica Williams. Williams told dispatchers that she had just been robbed of $5,000 in cash while in the alleyway near her garage on the 8000 block of South Wabash Avenue. She said she was a police officer but was not on duty at the time. When help arrived, Williams explained that she had been held at gunpoint by her attacker, who had yelled, quote, "Give me everything you got." She apparently went into great detail about the robbery and the suspect, though said that the security cameras at her home were not working at the time of the incident. Unfortunately for Williams, her story quickly unraveled when police managed to obtain surveillance footage from one of her neighbors. The video showed the 37-year-old walking outside and taking a duffel bag out of her car. However, there was no one else around. Williams was also wearing a different shirt than the one that she had on when she called 911. After about a week, investigators became convinced that Williams was lying to them and had fabricated the entire story. This week, the 37-year-old was arrested and charged with felony disorderly conduct and false report of an offense. The same day that she was arrested, she was also fired from her job as an officer with the Chicago Police, where she had reportedly worked since 2015. At the time of this recording, no information has been provided about Williams' motive for the alleged crime.
Authorities in Atascosa County, Texas say that a woman is lucky to be alive this week after she was viciously attacked by her boyfriend and left for dead under chilling circumstances at the side of a local road. The incident began just after 4 p.m. on December 2nd when police were called to a field on the 4000 block of Eichmann Road just south of San Antonio. Officers arrived to find the female victim, who had clearly been through a harrowing ordeal. She had been badly beaten, stabbed multiple times, and her throat had been slashed. Though she had been rolled up in plastic and left for dead in a field just off the road, she managed to survive. After rushing the woman to a hospital, police began an investigation, one that quickly pointed to the woman's boyfriend, 31-year-old Roger Gonzalez. Detectives were able to tie Gonzalez to the crime, in part because apparently he was wearing an ankle monitor at the time. Gonzalez has now been charged with first-degree aggravated assault with a deadly weapon and remains in custody. No motive has been released behind the disturbing attack. At the time of this recording, the female victim is said to be in serious but stable condition at a hospital in San Antonio.
Authorities in the city of Milford, Connecticut are applauding the actions of a Good Samaritan this week after he came to the aid of his neighbor during the middle of a terrifying and potentially deadly domestic violence incident. The whole thing started around 1:50 p.m. on November 25th when Milford police received a 911 call about a stabbing at a residence on Greer Circle. Officers arrived to find a female victim who was suffering from multiple knife wounds to her upper torso and chest area, as well as a male suspect who had suffered injuries to his head. The female victim and witnesses to the incident soon filled authorities in on what had happened. According to reports, the victim was in her bedroom at home that afternoon when her husband, 66-year-old Kevin Conway, came in and started arguing with her. Things quickly escalated when Conway allegedly stated that, quote, "the last time he didn't kill her, but this time he was going to." Apparently, Conway was referring to an incident that took place back in March, where he had attacked his wife and bit her on the leg. Following the assault, the wife had obtained an order of protection against Conway. However, in October, she had allowed him to move back in. After making the comment about killing his wife this week, Conway reportedly tried to deliver on the threat, returning to the bedroom armed with 3 knives. He allegedly stabbed her, though she was able to escape and run across the street for help. The victim hid behind a male neighbor who was doing some gardening, telling him, quote, "Kevin is trying to kill me." The neighbor tried to get Conway to put down his weapon several times. However, he refused, saying, quote, "She was going to die and he was going to die," and quote, "You don't understand. This woman has screwed up my life 3 ways to Sunday." Realizing that he had no choice when Conway refused to back down, the neighbor reportedly struck him in the head with a leaf blower he had been using. The 66-year-old fell to the ground and was apparently incapacitated until police could arrive and place him under arrest. At the time of this recording, Conway is facing multiple charges, including first-degree assault, attempted murder, violation of a protective order, and second-degree threatening in connection with the attack. The victim says that she believes her husband was possibly under the influence of alcohol and prescription medication at the time of the incident.
Authorities in Middlesex County, New Jersey say that a young man is facing multiple murder charges this week after he allegedly carried out a disturbing shooting attack against his own family members inside their condo, later telling police, quote, "It might be me." According to reports, the situation began at around 9 a.m. on November 27th when police in the town of South Plainfield received a call about a possible shooting at the Traditions condo complex in Coppola Drive. Officers arrived to find 3 people suffering from gunshot wounds. They were soon identified as married couple 72-year-old Dilip Kumar and 72-year-old Bindu Brahmbhatt, as well as their son, 38-year-old Yash Kumar Brahmbhatt. Sadly, all 3 would die of their injuries, with the elderly couple being pronounced dead at the scene and Yash Kumar passing away at a local hospital. The only other person home at the time was 23-year-old Om Brahmbhatt, who called 911 to report the shooting and greeted police when they arrived. It's said that the victims were his grandparents and uncle. Things quickly took a dark turn when Om was questioned about who had shot his family members, allegedly replying, quote, "It might be me." Officers searched the condo, finding a handgun that they now believe was the murder weapon. The 23-year-old was quickly arrested. During further questioning, Om reportedly offered a more detailed confession, saying that he shot his grandparents once each in the head while they were sleeping in their bedroom. He then shot his uncle multiple times in another room of the residence. He stated that he bought the weapon used in the crime online. At the time of this recording, Om Brahmbhatt is now facing 3 counts of first-degree murder in connection with the killings. No motive is currently known behind the disturbing crime, though it's said that the 23-year-old had only recently moved into the condo because he was attending school and needed a place to stay. The situation is still developing.
Authorities in Anaheim, California say that a man is facing charges this week following a bizarre incident in which he stripped off his clothes inside of a beloved Disneyland attraction and proceeded to run around naked. The incident began at around 1:30 on the afternoon of November 26th when Anaheim police were called by Disneyland staff members. They explained that a guest at the park, identified only as a 26-year-old man, was wreaking havoc on the It's a Small World ride. While it's unclear how the whole thing actually started, riders had first seen the man as he stripped down to his boxers and climbed into one of the water areas of the attraction. He later got out and appeared to be playing with the animatronics before completely removing his clothing altogether and continuing to walk around. At one point, he was observed standing nude near the entrance to the ride's main tunnel in broad daylight. The man's antics briefly forced Disney staff to stop the ride. though thankfully he was eventually taken into custody by police without anyone being injured. The 26-year-old, whose name has not been released, has now been charged with indecent exposure and for being under the influence of a controlled substance.
Representatives from the LAPD say that they have arrested a suspected serial killer this week, one who is accused of primarily targeting and killing members of the city's homeless population. The unsettling series of events began at around 3 a.m. on November 26th, when the first victim was shot and killed near 110th Street and Vermont Avenue in LA's Westmont neighborhood. The suspect shot the male victim while he was sleeping in an alleyway. 2 more murders followed in rapid succession, one on November 27th on the 600 block of Mateo Street, the other on November 29th in Lincoln Heights. All of the crimes followed a similar pattern. The suspect would walk up to the homeless male victims while they were asleep and alone, then shoot them before fleeing the scene in a dark-colored sedan. While the LAPD was able to connect the shootings, it wasn't until they got wind of another murder that they began to zero in on the suspect. That crime claimed the life of a 42-year-old father of 2 named Nicholas Cimbalon. Cimbalon was reportedly killed when he was followed home to his residence in the city of San Dimas on November 28th and shot in his garage during a robbery. In a statement, the LAPD said it was their counterparts in Beverly Hills who recognized the suspect's license plate after Cimbalon's murder. They managed to track him down thanks to an automated plate reader and arrested him on the evening of November 29th. He has now been identified as 33-year-old Jared Joseph Powell. A firearm believed to be the murder weapon was found in his car at the time of his arrest. At the time of this recording, many questions still remain about the case, including the 33-year-old's alleged motive. Currently, it appears that the names of the 3 homeless victims have not been released, though they are said to be men ages 37, 52, and 62. The situation is still under investigation.
Representatives from Indiana's Rush County Sheriff's Office released a tragic update in the case of a missing 17-year-old girl this week, announcing that after nearly 6 months, her remains have been discovered, and that a man who was supposed to be her boss and trusted neighbor has been arrested for her murder. The case began back on June 7th of this year, when 17-year-old Valerie Tyndall left her home in the community of Arlington, telling her family that she was heading out to work. She was last seen driving her green Honda Accord, a vehicle which was later found abandoned and missing its keys and license plates several miles away in the city of Shelbyville. Shortly after Valerie was reported missing, Rush County investigators released a statewide silver alert. They stated that they believed the teen was in extreme danger and that she might have been, quote, receiving aid from individuals whose goal it is to keep her hidden. However, authorities now say the disturbing truth about Valerie's disappearance was much closer to home. The teen's body was found during a search this week of a property just across the street from her family's residence. That property belongs to the man now accused of her murder, 59-year-old Patrick Scott. In addition to being Valerie's neighbor, he owned a landscaping company that the teen worked for in the summers. According to reports, investigators found Valerie's remains inside of a wooden box that was constructed of 2x4s and strand board. Authorities were able to identify her in part because of her orange-painted nails, which matched with a photo she posted to social media on the day of her disappearance. The wooden box was one of 2 that were allegedly buried under the rubble of a garage that previously existed on the property. The second box apparently contained documents and old VHS tapes, though currently it's unclear if these are related to the case. Witnesses say that Scott disassembled and burned the garage in the early hours of one morning shortly after Valerie's disappearance. Following Scott's arrest this week, he allegedly confessed to killing Valerie, saying that he strangled her with a belt inside his residence on June 7th. Disturbingly, he said he, quote, put it around her neck and I held onto it until she quit. He apparently went on to explain that he kept the teen's body temporarily in his office until he constructed the box that he buried her in. Scott claimed that he killed Valerie because she was trying to seduce and blackmail him. He said that she wanted money for a new car, stating, quote, I wasn't going to have it. However, Valerie's family claims that there had been red flags about Scott's behavior well before the murder. The 17-year-old's mother says that Scott acted like a jealous boyfriend around Valerie and claims that at one point he was even tracking her phone. Authorities say that Scott had been a person of interest in the investigation for some time and that he had previously told conflicting stories about his activities on the day of the disappearance. In one account, he said he had dropped off Valerie at home that day, and in another, he stated that he had taken her to meet up with an unknown man about 5 miles away. At the time of this recording, Scott has been charged with murder and remains in custody. He also faces charges of obstruction of justice and false informing for the previous lies he allegedly told police. Even though Scott has been arrested and charged, authorities say that they still have a long way to go with their investigation. They are still searching his property and gathering evidence that they say will be used to build the case further. The situation is still developing. Before we wrap up, we'd like to take a second to give a huge shout out to everyone who has made it this far into the video. Seriously, thank you so much for watching. If you found today's upload interesting and informative, we'd be honored if you'd consider liking and subscribing, as well as hitting the notification bell and selecting all notifications to stay up to date with our latest releases. If you're looking for additional ways to help support the channel, we'd love to have you join us over on Patreon. Patrons get ad-free and early access to all of our content, as well as 4 additional stories per week for each of our Crimes of the Week and Crimes of the Week International videos. You can learn more at patreon.com/crimezone, where you'll also find some of the fine folks whose names are currently on screen. All that being said, we understand that not everyone has the means to support financially, and that's totally okay. We appreciate every like, sub, share, and comment that you send our way. Once again, thanks so much everyone, and take care.